Hey, Brown Girl Banter.
Hey, Brown Girl Banter.
Hey, I'm Dr. Dangerfield.
I'm Dr. Patience.
And we just would like to welcome you to this episode. And we're going to talk about a topic that we probably should have talked about a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
But really, especially in our work as therapists, we're going to talk about therapy in the Black church. Therapy in the even the Black community as a whole. So
just not even therapy. I think mental health.
Yeah.
Just even having a diagnosis of something and how that is perceived,
or even not even going it's sometimes going undiagnosed.
Undiagnosed,
because
true.
It's like you don't know what to do. Are you like, all right, it's taboo. Like, I have to handle this on my own. And a lot of times it's like, and what's being taught about mental health in our community? Because if we look at the numbers,
right,
the African American community, we have the highest numbers when it comes to diagnoses or symptoms or report, but we are the lowest number that seeks treatment.
That's scary.
It is.
I mean, really, that is actually scary to hear, for so many reasons, based on severity of diagnosis and symptoms. My first job out of grad school was working with a severely, persistently mentally ill. So a lot of paranoid schizophrenics, a lot of just regular schizophrenia, so a lot of auditory and visual hallucination, a lot of paranoia, and to think that. What I did learn, I come from Detroit, and so Detroit was a predominantly African American city.
Yes.
Mayor Young was kind of like ushered in that vibe, and so what happened, and then there's the whole thing when the governor shut down a lot of hospitals there.
Okay.
So then there's a lot of people just on the streets, which
so that leads to homelessness.
Yes, and then it birthed adult foster care homes, what they call them in Michigan, which is where if I have someone with a diagnosis, I can get them, Medicaid, and I can also put them in these homes with other people who have similar diagnoses, and then they can live there but visit with me on the weekends, whatever, right? And so I did a day program for these particular individuals, but what I realized was, like you said, a lot were going undiagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, which is, I think you're talking about me. I could maybe become violent and respond to you in a violent manner. And what I was able to kind of witness was how long, before they came to adult foster care, before they were hospitalized, the community just would say, oh, that's just Mike.
Yes.
That's just, Paul.
Yeah, and that's in community, but then also within family.
Within a family.
Yes.
It was, so instead of going to seek help, it was ignored. That's just how he or she is. Yes. And so what were they doing? Self-medicating.
Yes, because a lot of times and then that's how we get the higher numbers in A&D, substance abuse.
All of that.
That's how those numbers get higher.
It's so high because I'm self-medicating. And so this is happening and we're ignoring symptoms and that's just how you are.
Yep.
And Big Mama at the church at the altar.
What she doing? She's praying
for Mikey to get it, a Juggy, a Paul, or, to get it together.
Yes.
When what they needed
was some community resources of knowing what to do and knowing that it's okay to reach out, because I think about even my own journey of coming into the field when I can say I know God called me into this field because counseling was not on my radar.
Not either.
It wasn't, but then once I knew that that's what I was supposed to do, I started saying, well, if I'm called to counsel and I'm in a community that does not talk about mental health, and especially growing up in the Black church, and it was like we don't do mental health. I was like, okay, so how am I supposed to, God, who's going to come see me? Who am I going to serve?
Mm-hmm.
I said, because it was something that was almost taboo.
I was going to use that word. It was taboo.
It was taboo. If you didn't feel like your best, or if you had sadness that lasted for a long time, or anxiety, people like, go pray about it, pray it away. Or if you had to keep it to yourself because you didn't feel like, especially as African American women, didn't feel like you were being strong.
Yep.
If you said that, I spent the night woke because I couldn't go to sleep because I was crying, or different things like that. Or, you go to your doctor, even in our community, like even if your doctor would say, hey, I think you ought to get on some antidepressants or something like that. I don't take medicine for that because the word is, I'm not crazy.
I'm not crazy.
And that's not being crazy.
That's not. That
is taking care of your health. Because when we think about it, and even physical health, sometimes within the black community, we don't do as well because we have some of the highest numbers when it comes to health related things. But we'll more so go to a doctor about something in our physical health, because we'll go if if our blood pressure is high,
got that pressure,
or the sugar, the diabetes. We'll go, and if our doctor says, I need you to take your medication to make this better, we'll do it. But for when it comes to mental health, one won't talk about it, or if your doctor suggests, it's like, no, I'm not doing that. I can manage this on my own.
Yeah.
And I can pray it away. And hey, I'm not saying prayer doesn't work, because prayer is like rooted in my foundation. But there are also things out there in our community that can be used to help.
Right.
In that, because the research shows that, when some of the research shows that, if you prayer plus therapy plus getting on medication, it helps people to really have a better success rate in coping and managing.
Yeah, very true. And I mean, so it's just like how many generations?
Yes,
have just sat in postpartum depression.
Yes, most
sat
definitely.
in anxiety. Sat in I probably got some cousins / uncles / some severe diagnosis.
Oh yes,
and went untreated.
Yes.
And then, why is he on heroin, or why are they on, when the crack epidemic was high,
Yes. And
all of these
that's
things.
a whole different conversation to have about the black community
they don't,
and the system.
Addictions,
but
thing.
Yeah.
They don't want me to start on that. They do not want me to start on that.
Yeah.
But not being able to understand what they're, self-medicating because they're tired of hearing voices.
Yes, trying to and hearing voices is not the devil, because the other thing is, it's like if somebody was to say, I heard voices, they were like, that's the devil. But no, that's a symptom of something that's going on.
Yes.
Yeah.
And because I'm thinking, if I wouldn't have become a therapist and went to school for, understanding abnormal behavior and all the things that you're required to do in becoming counselors, I would have just fallen into what was taught to me.
Oh, yes.
What was taught to me about understanding about mental health, about symptoms, about, the importance of holistic care.
Yes.
I would never have my mother goes to the doctor for your for your OB. Yeah. Go if you're not feeling well, maybe. Them symptoms better be severe before you get to the hospital, right?
Or you get an ERB.
Exactly. You had to really talk that out.
Yes.
But I would have definitely just felt very religious. I would have been very religious.
Yes.
And I look back at my life man, I was super religious. I grew up very
because we were taught religious. We were taught about religion more so than
spirituality
and
relationship.
Yes.
And so I'm but that is just by the grace of God that I went to school for that, and because then to be able to share those experiences with people close to me and my family. So think about those who never get that, right? So we have a community, a race. I'm just going to specifically speak to what I am encountering, right? So we have a race of black people who have been taught that voices are the devil, or it's a sign from God, or or have been taught that you pray it away, or who've been taught that
you suffer in silence.
or you suffer in silence, and that's just who that's little
who
baby.
That's just who they are. It becomes their identity.
Becomes their identity, and we have a community of people who are just, even now I have, nieces and nephews who are younger who still kind of are trying to comprehend what auntie does. You know what I mean? And when I say younger, not like 13, like you're like 30. Like what is it actually you do, auntie?
What is it what you do?
Because I'm not sure if I believe that to be true.
Yeah, what you're doing. You're talking about this whole mental health thing.
Yes.
And don't understand it.
Do not.
And the thing that I think also is that the continuum that mental health flows on, because like on this end we have mental wellness, then we have mental health, and then we have mental illness, and it all gets put into the same box. Because if you think about it, the church teaches about mental wellness. If you think about Romans 12:1 about renewing your mind, those things, speaking positive things, that's about mental wellness. And then you have mental health that falls somewhere in between. But then what we don't talk about is when it becomes mental illness.
Oh, we don't touch the mental illness in the black family, in the black culture, on the black streets, whatever it is, that is something we do not we don't discuss, right?
No.
We just are like, no, that's not. I'm just gonna take that to my minister. And my minister will resolve this issue or help me pray about this issue. And so there is a whole community of people who don't understand the importance of seeking. Which, let me say this to me, and this is opinion. Y'all know Bronco Banter is opinion,
right? So we forgot to put that disclaimer out there.
So to me, anyway, black people are not going to ask for help. That is just not. People try to pretend like society will make you believe that we love a good handout and we love to be on welfare. We want all of this. That is what is broadcast about black people. But honestly, my husband used to be in the house like, you bet not. When we get in this house,
you bet not tell it. You better not ask for.
You better not ask for nothing when we get in these people's house.
Right.
You just sit there quiet. So don't believe the hype. Don't believe we were raised to ask for things and for help. So if we're getting help, and I'm not saying everyone, I'm saying, but we are more likely in the need of that help than we just walking around like, gimme.
Right.
That is not. So don't believe what you see being dictate, on TV
put out there in social media, in media
about African Americans. So, asking for help is a really difficult thing. I mean, have we not been saying that like all season long? For our community, right? And so that's where the suffer in silence comes in. That's where, okay, maybe I'll run to this ER because I'm feeling faint or I'm feeling, don't feel good or whatever. But if they say, which I know in the ER for facts, they talk about your mental health
because they go through those questions.
And you say nothing. But then, a couple of weeks later, a couple of months later, you committed suicide. Yeah. Which is now becoming more prevalent in the African American community.
Yes, because that's something that because I remember growing up, when it talked about this, it would say, black people don't commit suicide.
Oh yeah, that was
complete suicide, suicide. And it's like, now you're hearing more stories. Because even in our community going on right now, a 12-year-old.
Don't make me talk about that story. Made me so sad.
A 12-year-old committed suicide because she was being bullied at school.
Beautiful girl.
Yes.
Beautiful girl.
So it's becoming more something that people consider.
And there are races of people. I mean, if you study, like I think we talked in an episode a long time ago, like sociology, and Lisa and I love those classes in my undergrad program. And so we are not the only race that doesn't really believe or go into therapy, right? It's other races of color that's not their jump off either. But I believe like it is. We are starting to see more of us doing things based in our mental illness that we're like, hold on.
That's not
something is not right.
That's something that we had not seen.
Exactly.
And I think also that actually part of it is coming. I think we're seeing it more. It's because mental health in the black community is being talked about more. We're seeing Yeah, celebrity. They're talking about it more than we as everyday people. But also, we're getting more counselors of color, therapists of color, people going into the field because they want to help the community. They want to do work for the community. Yes, sometimes we get attacked or charged by, like, why do you say that you only want to work with people of color? Because my people are looking for me. They're looking for someone that looks like them a lot of times. And so they're like, oh, so you are a black therapist? And I'm in groups now. Somebody's like, can you give us a name of a black therapist, a black psychologist, a black psychiatrist, and just seeing the list of people, because now the community is needing it
and wants it,
and we're still behind the 8 ball and in numbers, but the resources and the services are out there.
Yes, and that's, a blessing, because we need it. A lot of calls I get, it's so funny. They try to be so like
they don't want to
I want somebody, who understands me and can kind of get where I'm coming from. I'm like, okay, got it, check. I know what you mean.
I know what you're saying. Code. That's our code word. Somebody that will understand me. That's code word.
I get it. And so, and the part I say all the time is, I would love if our older generation could. People are like, well, she's 60, she ain't gonna change. Well, I don't think that's true. Believe that. Yeah. I cannot believe that. And so, maybe as our younger, I have a white counterpart. She was like, we've been going to therapy before therapy was cool, right? And so, now that I'm going to say air quotes cool, like, as our younger people are starting to reach out and ask for it, maybe their parents will, see the importance and start wanting to be better.
Yes, because I was talking to someone and they were in, they were in therapy, and then they were like, well, how can I get my mom to come? And I shared with them. I said, the first question I asked, I said, is your mom a member of a church? I said, is her faith very important to her? And the person, 9 times out of 10, they're gonna say yes. And what happens is, I said, well, okay, that may be your avenue. It's like, so explain to them. And I said, what is their pastor? And I always ask, like, what's their pastor preacher from the pulpit, or what other services are available in the church? I was like, do they do a grief share? Do they do a divorce share? I said, so that means they're open, especially if they have those things available in church. I'm like, they're open. I said, so you can always kind of say, hey, they have these things at church. So, your pastor and the ministry is open to you going outside for services. And I was like, that's taxing. Some of it is like taxing on your minister to expect him to take care of all of that when there are other things in the community. So I was like, so just kind of talk to your mom or your dad about, hey, your pastor is busy. There are people out there that I'm sure that he would co-sign and say they're good people, because for the African American community, we know word of mouth referral is the best thing for us. Best. Because what is like, if we say they're cool, then they're cool.
Checkmate. Yep.
And so especially when the pastor says therapy's cool, going to talk to someone, or this person is cool, then the person is more open to go. And especially our older members, they'll be like, oh, okay, I'll go. It's safe. I'll go talk to someone.
And and I know we're going to expound on that a little bit more, but they definitely have to hear from the pulpit.
Oh yeah, the pulpit is the place for it to shift.
It definitely is the cue for that change to happen. And I do, and I'm like, Lucretia and I always kind of talk about, like, how can we, especially if you live in a predominantly white city,
yes.
How do we gather the resources to really show our community that there are therapists and psychiatrists and psychologists and school counselors and all of that who look like you that can help you? And so we're always brainstorming ideas of how to do that, because I have a friend, and I'd say, I love her. Shout out to you, Dr. Tamika Hudson. She said to me, she's on a board, and she said, I try to explain at a school, and she says, I try to explain to people that we like to work in collaboration.
Yes.
Don't put
Yes.
a kid in the classroom by themselves. They
Yes.
want to be able to look up and see someone who looks like them because they believe in we believe in community
Yes.
and collaboration.
Yes.
And I was like, man, that's profound. Now, I hope you don't mind me sharing that, girl, because it's out there now. So I would thought like that is so important, true. Right? Mm-hmm. And so here is that. So sometimes when you're like, well, why do they want only a black therapist? Well, because we believe in community and collaboration. Yes. And so I want to be my authentic, genuine self and if it's just, and maybe we don't mesh. I offer consultations first because it doesn't mean just because we're both black, we're going to mesh right away. Right. But I also believe that commonality walking in the room helps that person be authentic and genuine for themselves. And so I think it's important that we, try to gather those resources so that people know that there is help for you for whatever it is that you're going through. Because, could you imagine growing up with a bipolar parent? But in our community, that has happened. Your mama gone for 6 months. You like,
what happened? Or what,
She went to Florida and married some man and came back. And we're like,
how did that happen?
How did that happen? Yeah. But we just, Sue, she done took off like she does. No, that's not the...
That's not what, if we would look at what really is happening.
Yes. So it's so important that we, I challenge young people. Or my age people, because I've accepted I'm not young no more, would be like, ma'am. I'm like, hey, fine. I'm not young. But, that are, what do we say all the time? I'm a therapist and I have a therapist and I love God and I'm a therapist. I go to church and I go to a therapist. So, it's...
I will hire a therapist and a coach in a heartbeat. And I challenge us to kind of really talk about it more. And be willing to have those conversations even amongst your friends. Like, especially as black women, sometimes we will check our friend. Like, so if we see our friend, or we notice that our friend has been like sad for a long period of time, or just like lacking motivation or anxious, hey girl, you might need to go talk to someone about that.
Oh, I probably drive my friends crazy. I ain't gonna lie, y'all. They probably looking at this like she does. I'd be like, you're grieving, go. You're anxious, go. I'm like sending everybody. You're depressed, go. Go talk to somebody. Go talk to somebody.
And it's like, go, and it's a meme that talks about that's not a compliment, go talk. But like when people want to know, because usually like if you say, hey, have you thought about going to talk to someone about it, they'll ask you for referrals. In a heartbeat. And I get like texts from friends like, hey, a lot of times they're asking me, well, do I do therapy with certain populations? And I'm like, no, that's not my lane. And I said, but I can give you some referrals. And I have a list of individuals that I will I'm like, hey, I give you a list. I can help you out with that. Yeah. Because I know that there's such a need, but also healing takes place in community, and healing takes place once you talk about what's going on. So for me, it's like wanting my people in my community to be healed. Exactly. And speaking of healing, part 2 of this, which we're going to in just a moment, is we talked about this. Who's responsible? Because we as therapists feel some responsibility, of course, right? There are family members who believe in therapy who feel some responsibility. But I believe Dr. Dangerfield said this earlier when she was talking. We all know that if the pulpit said it to some African Americans, they would go to therapy. And so we need to just discuss this whole component of like the role of the church. And mental health and mental how illness. We can collaborate and come together. And how we collaborate and come together. So we challenge you to listen to part 2 of this episode. So we'll be back. You all take care. Have a good one. Bye, Brown Girl Banter.